Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Boost Podcast. I'm Emma, and today we're tackling a topic that I think everyone struggles with at some point: finding motivation. Whether you're trying to learn English, start a new project, or simply get through your daily tasks, motivation is absolutely essential.
And I'm James. Hi, Emma. This is such a timely topic for me because I've been going through a bit of a motivational slump recently. You know those periods when you know what you should be doing, but you just can't seem to make yourself do it? That's been me for the past few weeks, so I'm hoping this conversation will help me as much as our listeners.
I think we've all been there, James. Motivation is something that comes and goes. Some days you wake up feeling energized and ready to take on the world, and other days you can barely make yourself get out of bed. The good news is that there are strategies we can use to boost our motivation, even when we're not feeling naturally inspired.
Today we're going to explore what motivation really is, why it fluctuates so much, and most importantly, what we can do to find it and maintain it over time. We'll share personal experiences and practical tips that have worked for us and that might help you too.
And as always, Olivia will join us at the end to break down some key vocabulary related to motivation and goal setting.
Hi, everyone. I'm Olivia. Motivation is such an interesting topic, and English has so many great words and expressions related to it. I can't wait to share them with you.
So Emma, let's start with the basics. What exactly is motivation? How would you explain it to someone?
That's a great question to start with. Motivation is essentially the reason behind why we do things. It's the internal drive or desire that pushes us to take action toward a goal. When you're motivated, you feel energized and focused. You want to work on something, and the effort doesn't feel like such a burden. Without motivation, even simple tasks can feel impossible.
I've noticed that my motivation levels change a lot depending on what I'm working on. Some projects excite me and I can work on them for hours without getting tired, but other tasks, even if they're important, feel like pulling teeth. Why do you think that is?
I think it comes down to how meaningful the task feels to you personally. When something aligns with your values, interests, or long-term goals, motivation comes naturally. But when you're doing something just because you have to, or because someone else expects you to, it's much harder to stay motivated. That's why finding personal meaning in what you do is so important.
That makes a lot of sense. I've also noticed that my motivation is affected by my physical state. When I haven't slept well or I'm feeling stressed, everything seems harder and less appealing. Is there a connection between physical health and motivation?
Absolutely. Our physical and mental states are closely connected to our motivation levels. When you're tired, hungry, or stressed, your brain doesn't have the resources it needs to feel motivated. That's why taking care of the basics, like getting enough sleep, eating well, exercising, and managing stress, is so fundamental to maintaining motivation. You can't expect to feel driven and energized if you're running on empty.
So motivation isn't just about willpower or mental strength. It's also about creating the right conditions for motivation to flourish.
Exactly. I think a lot of people beat themselves up for lacking motivation, when really the problem is that they're exhausted or overwhelmed. Instead of forcing yourself to push through, sometimes the best thing you can do is rest, recharge, and then approach the task with renewed energy. Now I want to talk about two different types of motivation that psychologists have identified: intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Understanding the difference can really help you figure out how to motivate yourself more effectively. James, do you know what these terms mean?
I've heard them before, but I'm not sure I could explain them clearly. Intrinsic motivation is when you do something because you enjoy it, right? And extrinsic is when you do it for an external reward.
That's exactly right. Intrinsic motivation comes from within. You do something because it's personally rewarding or satisfying. For example, if you play guitar because you love making music, that's intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation comes from external factors like money, grades, or praise. If you practice guitar because your parents will give you extra pocket money, that's extrinsic motivation.
Which type of motivation is better?
Research shows that intrinsic motivation tends to be more sustainable and leads to better performance. When you're intrinsically motivated, you're more likely to persist through challenges and enjoy what you're doing. However, extrinsic motivation isn't bad. Sometimes we need external rewards to get started, and over time, we might develop intrinsic interest.
That's happened to me with exercise. I started going to the gym because I wanted to look better, which is extrinsic. But now I genuinely enjoy working out. The motivation shifted from external to internal.
That's a perfect example. The key is to find ways to make tasks more intrinsically rewarding. If you're learning English primarily for career reasons, you can boost intrinsic motivation by finding aspects you genuinely enjoy, like watching movies in English or having conversations with people from different cultures.
What about when you have to do something you really don't enjoy? Some tasks are just boring but need to get done.
That's where extrinsic motivation becomes useful. You can create your own rewards for completing unpleasant tasks. After finishing a boring report, treat yourself to your favorite coffee. You can also connect the task to a larger goal that does motivate you. Doing taxes is boring, but it supports your goal of financial stability.
One thing I really struggle with is maintaining motivation over long periods. I might start a project full of enthusiasm, but after a few weeks or months, my motivation fades and I lose interest. How can we stay motivated for the long haul?
That's such a common problem, James. I think most people experience this cycle of initial excitement followed by a motivation dip. The first thing to understand is that motivation naturally fluctuates, and that's completely normal. You're not going to feel equally motivated every single day, and expecting constant high motivation sets you up for disappointment.
So what can we do when motivation drops? Just wait for it to come back?
Waiting is one option, but it's not always practical, especially if you have deadlines or commitments. This is where discipline and habits come in. Discipline is doing something even when you don't feel like it. If you rely only on motivation, you'll only work when you feel inspired. But if you build discipline and create habits, you'll keep making progress even on days when motivation is low.
That reminds me of what we discussed in our last episode about habits. So the goal is to make the behavior automatic so you don't have to rely on motivation?
Exactly. Motivation gets you started, but discipline and habits keep you going. Another strategy is to break big goals into smaller, manageable steps. Large goals can feel overwhelming, which kills motivation. But if you focus on just the next small step, it feels much more achievable. Instead of thinking about writing an entire book, focus on writing just one page today.
I've also heard that tracking your progress can help with motivation. Is that something you do?
Yes, definitely. Seeing how far you've come can be incredibly motivating, especially when you're feeling stuck. I keep a simple log of my accomplishments, even small ones. On days when I feel like I'm not making progress, I look back at the log and remind myself of everything I've achieved. It gives me a boost and helps me see that my efforts are paying off, even if progress feels slow.
What about when you're feeling completely stuck and nothing seems to help?
When that happens, be gentle with yourself. Sometimes we need to rest rather than push through. But if resting doesn't help, try changing your environment. Work from a different location, or shake up your routine. A change of scenery can refresh your mind. Also, talking to someone who supports you can help. Sharing struggles often makes them feel smaller.
That's really helpful advice. I think I often expect motivation to just appear magically, when really I need to actively cultivate it.
Exactly. Motivation is something you create and nurture, not something you passively wait for. Everyone struggles with motivation sometimes. Even successful people have days when they don't feel like working. The difference is that they have strategies to push through and keep moving forward.
What a wonderful discussion about motivation. I learned so much. Now let me explain some important vocabulary from today's episode. First, we have motivation. Motivation is the reason or desire that makes you want to do something. It's the driving force behind our actions. We can talk about finding motivation, losing motivation, or boosting motivation. Emma mentioned that motivation is what pushes us to take action toward our goals. Next is inspire. To inspire someone means to give them the enthusiasm or desire to do something, especially something creative or positive. We can say, "She inspires me to work harder," or "The beautiful scenery inspired him to paint." You can also feel inspired, which means you're full of creative energy and motivation. Then we have determination. Determination is the quality of continuing to try to do something even when it's difficult. A determined person doesn't give up easily. We might say she achieved her goals through hard work and determination. It's closely related to persistence and perseverance. Procrastinate is an important word related to motivation. To procrastinate means to delay or postpone doing something, especially something you should do. We often procrastinate because we lack motivation or because a task seems unpleasant. I always procrastinate when I have to clean the house, is a common example. Next is discipline. Discipline is the ability to make yourself do things you should do, even when you don't want to. It's about self-control and following rules or routines you've set for yourself. Emma explained that discipline helps us keep working even when motivation is low. Finally, we have mindset. Your mindset is your way of thinking about things, your mental attitude. A positive mindset or growth mindset can help you stay motivated because you believe in your ability to improve and succeed. We say things like having the right mindset is essential for success. Those are your motivation vocabulary words. Back to Emma and James.
Thank you so much, Olivia. Those words are really useful for discussing personal development and goal setting in English.
Let's review. Motivation, inspire, determination, procrastinate, discipline, and mindset. Try to use these words when you talk about your own goals and challenges.
We'd love to hear from you. What motivates you? What do you do when you're struggling to find motivation? Share your tips and experiences in the comments below. We always learn so much from our community.
And if you're feeling unmotivated right now, remember that it's completely normal. Be patient with yourself, try some of the strategies we discussed, and know that motivation will return. Sometimes you just need to take that first small step.
Thank you for watching English Boost Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support means so much to us.
See you in the next episode. Take care and stay motivated.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Goodbye.